Dawn breaks over a fog-choked field in northern France. 1346, and you're standing in the ranks of an English army at the Battle of Crécy. The air is sharp, biting your lungs, and your breath clouds in the chill. Your hands, rough from years of toil, grip a spear that feels too heavy, its iron tip glinting dully in the half-light. Around you, hundreds of soldiers shift uneasily, their faces pale, eyes darting toward the horizon where the French army waits, a shadowy mass of steel and banners. The ground beneath your boots is a churned mess of mud and grass, slick with dew, promising to betray you at the first misstep. Your heart hammers, a relentless drum, and a sour knot of fear twists your gut. This isn't Game of Thrones, with its soaring music and choreographed heroics. This is medieval war raw, merciless, and deafeningly real. You're no knight, no legend. You're a common soldier, and your only thought is survival. How do you outwit the chaos of this battlefield and live to see another dawn, history fans? Buckle up for an epic journey into the heart of the Middle Ages. Smash that subscribe button, and let's plunge into the mud, blood, and cunning that kept soldiers alive in the fire of war. The battle begins with a sound like the world tearing apart. A roar rolls across the field, thousands of voices shouting, cursing, praying, and the sky darkens as French crossbows loose a storm of bolts. Arrows hiss like vipers, thudding into shields, earth, and flesh. The man beside you stumbles, a shaft sprouting from his shoulder, and you flinch as his blood spatters your cheek. Instinct screams to run, but there's nowhere to go. The field's a death trap, mud clings like tar. Roots snag your ankles, and broken weapons lie scattered like hidden blades. Studies from battles like Towton in 1461 show half the front line could fall before even reaching the enemy, tripped or crushed in the chaos. You force your eyes to the ground, picking each step with desperate care, your body low to dodge the deadly rain. A fallen shield catches your eye, half buried in the mire, and you snatch it, not for honor, but because it's your only defense against the next volley. Every muscle screams, but you keep moving. Survival starts here. Stay low, stay sharp, and don't let the battlefield claim you before the enemy does. Your gear is your lifeline, but it's a fickle ally. The padded gambeson hugging your chest thick. Quilted cloth stitched tight feels like a heavy embrace, warding off the chill and the sun's glare that's starting to burn through the mist. It's lighter than the plate armor weighing down the knights, who are already panting, their faces red under visored helms. Medieval grave studies reveal a grim truth. 40% of armored soldiers suffered broken bones despite their protection. Their ribs cracked by maces or their skulls dented by warhammers. You don't trust your gear to save you. You trust your wits. You're not here for the flashy swordplay of Game of Thrones. You scan for weak spots, armpits, necks, thighs where a quick dagger thrust can drop an enemy fast. Your spear's sharp, but when it lodges in a Frenchman's shield, you let it go, scrambling for a mace in the mud. You've seen peasants wield sharpened shovels or pitchforks. 20% of fighters used farm tools, and they could smash a skull as well as any sword. You grab a dented flail, its spiked head caked with blood, and swing it low. Survival means adapting if it's in your hand, and it kills. It's yours. The noise is a living beast, clawing at your sanity. Screams tear through the air, some from pain, some just raw terror. Metal screeches against metal, bones crunch, and the stench of blood, sweat, and worse fills your nose, thick enough to choke. Your mind slipping, drowning in what modern psychologists call battle mind, where fear and adrenaline strip away reason. Medieval accounts say 60% of soldiers lost their bearings after 10 minutes, stumbling in a fog of violence, unsure who was friend or foe. You feel it too. The world shrinks to a frantic bubble, every shadow a blade, every sound a death knell. Panic gnaws at you, a cold hand squeezing your chest. But you fight it. You scream a guttural, wordless roar that burns your throat because silence feels like surrender. Studies show 70% of fighters made noises they couldn't recall. From prayers to curses, anything to anchor their breaking minds. You mutter fragments of a prayer your mother taught you, the words a faint tether to the world beyond this hell. Unlike the steely heroes of Game of Thrones, you're not fearless, you're terrified. And survival means wrestling that terror into submission. Falling is a death sentence, one stumble, and you're trampled by your own side or hacked apart by enemies. Grave studies show most deaths came from downward strikes to the head, often on men already down, their skulls split by axes or crushed by flails. You press close to the men beside you, their shoulders a shaky wall against the tide. 5-on-1 isn't dishonor, it's how you stay alive. The battlefield's your hidden ally, you duck behind a shattered cart. It's splintered wood, a fleeting shield. You kick mud into an enemy's eyes, buying a precious second to swing your flail. A ditch becomes a refuge, its muddy walls soaking up arrows that would have found your chest. You've seen defenders on castle walls pour hot sand, not oil. A myth born of Hollywood, oil was too precious, scorching attackers below. You've heard whispers of soldiers playing dead, sprawled under cloaks in the gore-soaked mud, their breath shallow until the fighting passes. It's a desperate gamble, but you tuck it away, knowing you might need it. Survival means turning the chaos against your enemies, using every trick to claw your way through. The battle's a relentless beast, and hours bleed into moments. Your arms ache, your gambesons soaked with sweat and blood, some yours, some not. The French press harder, their knights charging in waves, their lances gleaming like death. You've lost track of time, of faces, of everything but the next breath. Your crew's thinning men you drank with last night are gone, their bodies lost in the mire. Yet you fight on, because stopping means dying. You learn to read the enemy's movements. A knight's overconfident swing leaves his side open. A crossbowman reloading is a chance to close the gap. You're not a warrior, you're a survivor. And every move is a calculation. You've seen men break, dropping their weapons to weep or run, only to be cut down. You won't be one of them. You scream again, not for courage, but to remind yourself you're still here. When the tide turns, running becomes your only hope. Records show 40% of armies fled before a battle's peak, scattering to survive another day. You watch for a break, a moment when the French line falters, their knights tangled in the mud. You seize it, sprinting for a ravine, your boots slipping, your breath ragged. You toss your shield. Its weight a death sentence now. Armor drags you down after 100 yards, your lungs burning. But you push on, ducking into a thicket of gnarled trees. One tale from Poitiers in 1356 speaks of a soldier hiding inside a dead horse, his body curled in the stinking warmth until nightfall. it's grim. But you'd do it too if it meant another dawn. You've heard of men crawling under piles of bodies, their breath shallow, their hearts pounding as enemies passed by. Survival is about timing, knowing when to fight and when to vanish into the shadows. If you make it through, the battlefield's horrors give way to new ones. Your body's a map of cuts and bruises, each one a potential killer. Medieval records say 3 times as many died from infections as from wounds. A silent enemy that festers in the days after. You stagger to a makeshift camp where a surgeon, a grim-faced man with a bloodied apron, waits with a hot knife. You bite down on a leather strap as he sears a gash on your arm. The sizzle and pain, a brutal trade for life. You've seen men scream, their wounds blackening, their eyes dulling as fever takes them. You pray you're not next. But prayer feels hollow now. The mental scars cut deeper than any blade. You wake at night, fists clenched, the screams of the fallen echoing in your skull. You see their faces, men you fought beside, men you couldn't save, and wonder why you're still here. Chroniclers wrote of soldiers drinking for days, not in victory, but to drown the memories. You understand them now. The weight of survival heavier than any armor. Days pass, and the battle fades into stories told by those who weren't there. They speak of glory, of kings and banners, but you know the truth. Medieval war wasn't a saga of heroes. It was a desperate scramble to stay alive. You dodged arrows, wielded shovels, screamed to keep sane, and ran when you had to. You used the battlefield's chaos, turning mud and wreckage into allies. You fought not for a crown, but for one more breath, one more sunrise. Game of Thrones weaves tales of epic battles, but the reality is messier, rawer, and achingly human. You didn't win a war, you survived one, and that's enough. This is the story of the medieval soldier, no legends, just men like you, outsmarting death with grit, cunning, and desperation. You faced the chaos and came through, carrying scars that never fade. If this journey gripped you, if you felt the mud under your boots and the fear in your chest, then smash that like button, subscribe for more unfiltered history, and drop a comment. What survival trick would you use to make it through a medieval battle? Let's keep the story alive. See you in the next one.